but speaking of finance and speaking of time to learn, we are going to go to the first of our 2 classes from Retirement 101. Now, today's instructor is Dustin Tenbroeck, and we're going to let him talk a lot more than me. But I'm putting it that way because I took a Retirement 101 2-day class not too long ago, and I was extremely impressed. I heard things that I thought I always knew, but heard them in completely new ways, which gave me all completely new understandings about them. So I want you guys to be, everybody out there, to be a part of that also. Now, they talk about so much that I'm going to let Dustin kind of put it into perspective of what he wants and just let him go. But first thing, I would like, Dustin, please tell everyone who you are and how they can get a hold of you.
Sure thing, Jay. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a great endorsement. I think you said most of it. That's fantastic. It was great to hear. So yeah, my name's Dustin Tenbroeck. I'm a certified financial planner. Our offices are located in Southern California. So 2 offices in Orange County and 1 in San Diego, near Del Mar, near the racetrack, if you've ever made it there, Jay.
Yes.
Yeah, I've better odds on investing elsewhere, but it's a lot of fun.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't have a great track record at the track. That's
oh, for sure. No pun intended?
No pun. Yeah, actually no, but it worked out. Yeah, and then retirement101.org is a great way to view upcoming courses and classes that you talk about. So retirement101.org is where we are going to host all of our class schedules for the rest of this year. In the next week or so, we're also going to publish what we have in store for 2020. We're expanding the locations to expand geographically, including a lot more. So you can get in touch with us through our website, retirement101.org. You can sign up for classes directly through that website, whatever location's most convenient for you. If you'd like to have a web version of the class, then you can get in touch with our firm to get that through.
I didn't know that was available. That's great, too, for people that maybe can't make it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all busy these days, right?
Yeah, but I do think in person is if you do have time, it's better to be really interactive that way. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and you might recall, there's a lot of great material, I think, that we provide, which you referenced. But, there's some great questions that the audience will come up with as well, and so information's in always 3 places. We know what we know what we don't know, and we don't know what we don't know. And so coming to a live class is a great way to obtain information in all 3 of those categories. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I'm not sure which part of whatever you wanted to give this little bit of time to, but I'm going to leave that up to you because I just sat there when I was in there and I really enjoyed just about everything every little section, as it were.
Yeah. It's funny. I joke, there are 2-day classes and each class is about 2 hours long and we have 4 hours. And I always joke we need 400. So trying to cut it down from the 4 hours, is challenging. But, we start out in the class just with remembering about what we're doing when we're making financial decisions and money decisions. And we want to make good decisions with our nest egg, with our house, with our mortgage, with our cash, with our retirement decisions, job, etc. And we try to make all these right decisions and good financial moves and strategies, but we have to remember why we're doing it, right? And putting that in context. And so what I've learned over my life is that there are really only 2 things that we have in this world, only 2 things that we can control, and that's our time and our money. And there's nothing else.
Yeah.
It's that basic. And look, I'm married, I have children, I've tried to control other things in life, let me tell you, to no avail, right? You can attest to that. And when it comes down to it, we do control how we spend our time, how we spend our money. It's funny, we talk about those 2 things the exact same way, right? How can I save time, save money?
Yes, we do.
And the proof is go to a charity and say, hey, I'd really like to contribute. I'd like to help out. What can I do? And they're going to say, well, you can either donate your time or you can donate your money because you have nothing else to give. That's it. So we make all these decisions in financial planning about what to do with the money, but the money's not real. The money is not real. The money is a means to an end. We have to make that money do something at some point.
Money has always seemed unreal to me, but no, that's a different.
Yeah. There's be a flip side to that, but so having enough money is important, but to what end, and what are we going to do with it? And when we're working, we're trading our time for money. That's a simple equation. I have the time, I need more money, I'm going to trade my time for money, and hopefully folks will reach the day called their financial independence day where they don't need to make that trade anymore, right? And I lied to my kids just like my parents lied to me, and we tell them and they told us that money doesn't buy what?
Happiness.
Right. Money doesn't buy happiness. Big lie. It's the only thing that money can do. There's nothing else money can do other than buy happiness. I get it. The frivolous spending doesn't necessarily make you happier, but not having to go to work, having your health care paid for, having education, having your grandchildren have education, having a home you can live in. Money will buy happiness, and it's up for each individual to define what's most important in their life. And that's the foundation of financial planning. It's not starting with the investment product or the mortgage product or the tax strategy or the account. It's what do we want to do with this money? What kind of life am I going to live? And that's going to tell us what kind of mortgages, financial products, and tax accounts we're going to need to get that done.
Wow. Absolutely.
So the good news is we call it Retirement 101, and we say it's just math. When we're making the financial strategies together, you might remember that a lot, Jay.
I do.
It's a whiteboard and an HP 12C, old-fashioned financial calculator. We roll up the sleeves and we do the math, and whatever our questions are, there's just 4 things: assets, liabilities, income, expenses. Those are the only 4 financial categories that any of your financial questions can be about. So ALIE, we say ask Allie, right? And try to make good decisions about those. We also want to educate people in this course about some of the things which I call, we have some defects, and that they affect the way we make financial decisions. So I call these the 4 genetic defects in our financial DNA. And time again, we are just plagued by bad decision making because our brains just can't seem to connect the dots somehow. The first thing, if I can rattle them off for you, Jay, the first one is we compare to nothing. We compare some action to no action at all. And everything has, plenty of comparables, right? So like we compare buying a long-term care insurance policy for $3,000 a year or whatever, for example, to taking $3,000 a year and burning it in a barrel. That's the financial comparison we do. We don't compare to the thousands of other options of what we could do with $3,000 a year, how we could have invested it, how we could have spent it. What's the trip you could have taken every year of your life to live in a worse nursing home or whatnot, right? So we compared to zero, and it's wrong. That's not the comparison. So we have to do financial planning to figure out all the other considerations. A big one, number 2, is we don't really understand inflation. We get that it exists. We've lived with inflation our whole life, but when it comes to making financial decisions, we don't understand it. A good example is, and you'll know this in particular, Jay. You ever get that mortgage statement after you buy a house or you refinance your mortgage, and they have to send you an amortization statement, right? And it shows you all the payments that you're going to pay over the next 30 years. And we look at that, and we are blown away because compound interest is amazing. And I mean, I know the math offhand that a $400,000 mortgage over 30 years at 4% is about $687,000 of total payments. And our irrational brains look at all of that money like it's in today's money. And that's not how money works. Inflation exists, and the truth is that money in the future is worth less, right? Money in the future is worth less. And so we look at a payment today, let's say on a mortgage, let's say I'm paying $1,500 a month, just random number, and we'll look at a payment 10 years from now of $1,500 a month and think that those are equal.
Yeah, they're not.
Not even close. And so and we do that in all kinds of financial decisions. We can't really understand inflation, and it's pretty important. The next is something we've all lived with, unfortunately, and probably had some history with, and that is we have a tendency to buy high and sell low. Right?
Some of us really have that talent, yes.
Yeah, talent, for lack of a better.
Well, I think it just happens sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, it's part of life.
And through my career, I've found that it happens in two different ways. Both are hopefully avoidable. One certainly is. One way it happens is with our emotions, right? And that's really some of the benefit. Obviously, I'm biased and saying, and working with a financial professional or some other professional that's going to help you, right, make objective decisions, non-emotional decisions about your buying and selling decisions.
Yeah, that's what clients want, however.
Yes.
For you to have that attitude, yeah.
Yeah, it's when things are going up, everybody wants to get in, and when things are going down, everyone wants to get out. And buying high and selling low is the only way to lose money. Yet it's what we do time and time again. And I mean, you know, you take those cryptocurrencies in 2017 and the amount of calls we were getting, you know, to wanting to jump in and participate, you know, I mean, the up markets, we can get really excited and foolish, and we have to be rational in both up and down times.
You mean we're not going to pay off the national debt with Bitcoin?
Yeah. That might be a tough riddle to solve there in any way. So there's the emotional part of it, but the other part of it, which is really avoidable, and this is kind of where those other genetic defects of our financial DNA that I mentioned of comparing to nothing and not understanding inflation is, we force ourselves into positions where we have to sell low, right? And that could be, you know, getting a shorter mortgage, getting a 15-year mortgage schedule versus a 30-year mortgage schedule in retirement, right? I'm now required to pay off more every month. I'm forced to sell more of my retirement assets to make that payment. And we don't want to do that when things are down, right? And that's
right.
And that's some traditional thinking. Hey, I want to get my mortgage paid off. You know, I'm gonna confine myself to a 15-year schedule. And I'm not saying that folks absolutely should not do that, but we have to do the math and understand there could be a time where you're forced to sell things in your IRA or investment account when you shouldn't, to have to pay down that mortgage, right? You might force yourself to buy low. Or another common tactic we look to do in retirement is perhaps delay Social Security. You know, I'm going to try to delay Social Security to maximize my Social Security benefits.
When I heard, I just got to throw it in. I don't mean to interrupt too much, but that just blew me away. I mean, I kind of agreed with that before, but I just love the way you put it, and I kind of stole it, and now I tell other people when they ask me about that subject. So I'll go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's great. So mathematically, you know, we compare Social Security payments to zero, so we don't factor in all the other things that are going to go on with our finances. We just isolate that Social Security decision. But, you know, let's say I'm retired and I'm, you know, full retirement age, 65, 66, 67, whatever your age is, and I want to defer till age 70. There you go. And yeah, I might get more from Social Security, maybe. Right, you gotta live a long time. They have to change some laws so they don't run out of money here in another 15 years or so. So it's a maybe whether you get more from Social Security. But what are you going to do in the meantime? You're missing out on all those payments, and mathematically guaranteed 4 years from now, you're going to have about $100,000 less money on average. Like, you will just guaranteed have $100,000 less money, right? In 4 years from now, if we delay Social Security and do some break-even calculation to see if we ever catch up. But if you don't have that money coming in from Social Security, where's it going to come from? Well, it's going to come from your savings. Now you're forcing yourself to have to sell more stuff every year, which might not be the opportune time to sell. So these are just two different ways in which we might force ourselves by bad financial planning to have to sell low, right? So we don't want to buy high and sell low out of emotion, and we certainly don't want to pigeonhole ourselves into forcing ourselves to do that, right? So we want to do the math, right? Everybody's story is different. There's no, silver bullet or one answer for everybody. So you kind of have to figure out what's right for you. And there's a planning process to do that I teach in this class. But, that's why I say it's just math. It's not an opinion of when you take Social Security. It's not an opinion of what type of mortgage you should have or opinion of when you should retire. It's just math. And we have to do that math, right?
Yeah, I like the way you put in the class that it was not taking Social Security is almost like taking on a debt.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So what did I get through? 3 of my 4. So I think on the 4th one, so we also act like the world in the future is going to be the world we live in today. We all know that's not true. I mean, just this whole setup of our radio show today that we're on is pretty futuristic, and what we're able to do. And the world is changing at a pretty rapid pace. I mean, you'd probably agree with that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And things change that might have happened over the last 100 years, they're saying is an exponential growth, right? The next 10 years of change is probably going to look like the last 100. And we make decisions for ourselves in the future, like it's going to be this world that we live in today, right? And so I think I'll beat up on that long-term care policy decision today. I just get questions a lot about the nursing home, and most of the people I'm talking to are, in retirement and planning for, hopefully 20 years down the road or longer. Jay, maybe a lot sooner for you, but but 20 years or what? And it's like, we won't even recognize the world we live in 20 years. It's crazy to think that we could plan for an expense in a world 20 years from now when we have no idea of how those goods and services are delivered or what things cost. So, we just want to take caution in that. And know, Jay, when you were born, did you have a family member that bought a life insurance policy on you?
No.
Okay. A lot of people did. And it's weird. And you might know some people or talk to some people. I talked to a lot of people who, when they were born, some grandparent bought a life insurance policy on them, a whole life insurance policy. Now, today, that seems crazy. Why would you buy life insurance on a baby? And it was just how things were done. It was the right financial move at the time because there was infant mortality. And it was a responsible thing to do in the household. If you were a good financial manager of your household and responsible, the responsible thing to do would be to get some life insurance coverage on a baby. And then there was some cash value for that child once they turned 18 and went to work. They had a little money to start out their nest egg. Times have changed, obviously. That's not something that we consider today.
Right. I see a lot of Gerber advertisements when I watch television all of a sudden.
Yeah, they did.
Right now. So, yeah.
Right. But, so these decisions that we're making for the world, like, our parents' problems are our parents' problems. We will have our own problems, and they're not the problems of the world today. And so being flexible and nimble in your financial plans, I think, are important. Making long-term, irrevocable decisions is a pretty risky move if we can all agree that the world is going to change over time. The robots and automation today are astounding. Just astounding. Yeah. But there's going to come a time when they're not. I mean, it's just going to be commonplace and boring old news. You know, the generations before, I mean, the Industrial Revolution, the distribution of goods and services, and, you know, the retail outlets that came along over the last 40, 50 years were amazing. Walmart was amazing. It would have amazed generations if they could have seen that operation, right?
And now Amazon and things like that.
Yeah, and now we're thinking it's old hat. It's you know, right? Is it going to survive? And at some point, that's going to be the same thing with robots and automation. I don't know. Maybe everybody's going to, you know, that's why you have to be careful of saying, oh, well, my grandfather told me to do this because it worked for him. Or my mom said that this was the best thing to do because it worked for her. And that worked for them in that period of time and that world that we lived in at that time. And so we just want to be nimble, flexible, assess the world that we're living in today, and make those decisions. So those 4 genetic defects in our financial DNA, we have to realize that they're there. We have to admit them. We have to find them when they're plaguing us to making those bad decisions.
Absolutely. So far, you know, we've learned a great deal. And I know you do some other things with people like estate planning, healthcare planning, income sources, all that good stuff, investments. You get into all of those things, correct?
Yeah, the class we try to cover all the categories. So I think
kind of like life, like you would say, life planning for retirement. It's the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, early in my career, I worked at a multifamily office where, you know, we catered to really high net worth families.
Yeah, there's a lot of that out there, but you know, I think everybody will have a lot more high net worth families in the future if they get started now.
That's true. But you know, so with those high net worth families, we would have estate planners, attorneys, CPAs, certified financial planners, investment managers, you know, all these different real estate professionals, all these people at the table working together to try to solve this problem because everything's connected. And so we're trying to bring that same type of philosophy and advice to the everyday person who needs tax planning and tax strategy. Right? Needs to have an estate plan, needs to make financial decisions about their investments and Social Security and healthcare, right? Needs to plan out their life and how this money they've accumulated is going to be able to buy their happiness and how they're not going to run out, you know? And so I try to bring that training and philosophy to what we do in this course, right? And looking at an all comprehensive view of all those things you mentioned.
Now, before we do run out of time, which we will eventually.
Yes.
I don't mean life in general. I mean today.
Yeah, both are true.
Please give people your information again, how they can sign up for you. Let me just throw in, too, that, you know, all of these shows appear, of course, on the KMET network, but they're also on my YouTube channel a few days afterwards. I'll have a copy of the entire show, but I'll also have a copy of just that part with Dustin, so that when you may want to listen to him a couple more times before calling. All that'll be available. But go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, so retirement101.org is a great place to find a little outline about the course, the locations we have in San Diego and Orange County. And you can contact Retirement 101 at 858-384-0270. So 858-384-0270, or visit retirement101.org.
Your phone number like that again? And
sure. Phone number again is 858-384-0270. So Retirement 101. You can follow us on Facebook. If you're into the social media, we're there. We have some good posts. If you want to email us, you can email info@retirement101.org. So however you'd like to get in touch, we're happy to hear from you.
And a couple of things I'd like to say, that even if you don't have a financial planner, a lot of people don't. And in the past, like some of these companies, they wouldn't even consider you unless you had $500,000 sitting around for them to invest in. But whether you're in that category or if you're not in that category, I really think you need to have someone to talk to, a place to go and someone to talk to. And even if you have other financial advisors, I think that you've learned today that Dustin sees it from a little bit different way, and that perhaps that's something else that you need to add to your own knowledge base. So, you know what we say on the Ron Siegel show on ESPN, you should have yourself a household board of directors. And that household board of directors needs to have probably more than one financial planner, but I'd put, Dustin right up there at the top. Realtor, lender, a reverse lender, and people like that. That needs to be right next to your other telephone list of emergencies. So there. So I really think that's important. You need to talk to other people. So, and one thing that Dustin brought in was emotion and feelings versus behavior. I'm reading that right from the website, his website. And those are things you don't talk about with too many different advisors. I think many of them, of course, are not always right out for your best interest, but I know that this one is. The ones usually on the show are, but this, like I said, this one is like this one. I'm talking about Dustin as a one. But, he really seems like more than one, because he brings in a lot of information from a lot of different avenues. So I'm really recommending him very, very much. And we will have in a couple of weeks, tell us a little bit about your associate who we'll have on in a couple of weeks and what he'll talk about.
Sure, yeah. Cole's going to, so Cole Curtis is going to be able to join. He's from Retirement 101. So he's going to take a little bit more deep dive. We'll call it day 2 of the class. So talk a little bit more about estate planning here and what is important for us to figure out on estate plans. Estate planning is just that thing that you have to get done before you die, right? So
yes, well, I got a whole list, but
Yeah, so that one's really important to get done before we die, and so we want to make sure we know what we have to do, and the decisions you make with your estate plan, people overlook and underestimate how important they are, but they affect generations of people.
Let me just throw in, and I don't mean to cut in on your time, Dustin, but yesterday I got one great big problem solved with one of the mortgages I was working on. And today I just got hit with another problem. And these problems have to do with the fact that people do not know where their trust is. They don't know if there was a trust done 20 years ago wasn't that long ago. And now they have a new one based on that old one. They don't know where the old one is. And nobody ever gets it recorded. And we need those things. You need those things to protect yourself with. It's one of the most important things you need to keep track of. And it seems like nobody does.
Yeah. And the decisions. So we know we need it. We know it's important. And when we go to do this phase of life called estate planning, which is a meeting or two, likely with an attorney, we rush it and we don't think about it, but it's a day, this is a day that we will all have, and whatever decisions we make in our estate plan is what's going to be carried out on that day. And we overlook some of these really important decisions. Who is our successor trustee? Which of my children is the favorite that is going to step over all the other ones and start making decisions? And could that be a potential problem? Yes. I mean, we've seen that play out too many times the wrong way, and generations of people. Brothers don't talk to each other for 10 years. Cousins.
We're going to talk more about that, but unfortunately, I'm just getting excited about what you're about to talk about. But we're out of time.
All right.
Now,